Hello everyone, this is Night of Zero, and today I'm finally coming at you with my long-awaited LV deck review. Now, before I get into it, I just want to throw this out there that this is a deck that I ran way back when I was a little Bobby, when I didn't know too much about the game, and needless to say that this deck is not meant to take on any current metas out there, This is just a deck that I ran for fun and that I just really liked to play with.
Yeah, this looks pretty old, guys.
Very old. So, with that out of the way, let's jump into it. But first off, some of you may be asking what an LV deck is or what an LV monster is. To put in the simplest term, an LV monster is a pre-evolved monster that gets stronger when certain conditions are met. So there are various types of LV monsters out there, but for this deck, I decided to focus on three: Horus the Black Flame Dragon, Armored Dragon, and an Ultimate Insect. So to start off, I'm gonna focus on one of my favorite monsters of all time, and in this deck, Horus the Black Flame Dragon, level 4. It's a fire attribute, level 4, 1600 attack, 1000 defense. I run 3 copies of this card, and this card has 2 effects. The first effect is pretty random for my taste. Its effect is that this card cannot switch owners while face up on the field. So, for example, if your opponent pops the spell card Switch, which switches your monster with one of their monsters, Horus will not leave your side of the field because it cannot switch owners. But its second effect is the most important for this deck, because during the end phase that this card destroyed a monster by battle, I can send it to the graveyard to immediately special summon its evolved form, Horus the Black Flame Dragon level 6, which I will bring out just in a minute. Okay, so 3 copies. Moving on to its pre-evolved form. No, its evolved form, my mistake. I run 2 copies of Horus the Black Flame Dragon level 6, fire attribute level 6, 2300 attack, and 1600 defense. Now, I am able to bring out this by leveling up Horus, but I can also tribute summon for this card, which is important to say because some LVs you can tribute summon for, but others you cannot. Horus the Black Flame Dragon is one of those that you can. But moving on. This card is unaffected by spell cards on the field. So, for example, I can go into my battle phase. My opponent has more than 3 monsters in the field. Horus destroys one. Then, during my second phase, I pop a Dark Hole. I destroy everything on the field except for Horus the Black Flame Dragon because it's unaffected by spell cards. Now, the turn at the end of the phase that this card destroyed a monster by battle, I can send it to the graveyard to immediately special summon its final evolved form, a Horus the Black Flame Dragon level 8. As you can see, fire attribute level 8, 3000 attack, 1800 defense. Now this card you must can only be brought out by the effect of leveling up Horus the Black Flame Dragon level 6. It cannot be normal or special summon in any other way. Now, the reason that this card is my favorite card, well, not my favorite card, but one of my favorite cards in the entire game, is because as long as this card remains face up on the field, I can negate the activations of spell cards and destroy them. So it has a pretty good effect in my opinion, and its stats aren't too bad either. 3000 attack, So yeah, I know it's not all that high, but hey, I can make it work.
Yeah, 3000 attack is pretty good, I'd say.
Now, moving on from Horus to Armored Dragon level 3. I run 2 copies of this card. It's a win attribute, level 3, 1200 attack, 900 defense. Not a very strong on its not very strong card on its own. And leveling this guy up can be a little bit of a challenge because once you bring him out onto the field, it must survive a whole turn before you're allowed to level him up. So if you do bring this guy out on the field, it's recommended that you have at least some back row or some way to protect Armored Dragon level 3 from being destroyed. Because at the beginning of your next standby phase, that you can send this card from the field to the graveyard to immediately bring out its evolved form, Armored Dragon level 5. As you can see, a level 6 wind attribute, 2400 attack, 1700 defense. So Armor Dragon level 3 went from a pretty useless card to a pretty good card in just one turn. Now, its effect is that I can discard one monster card from my hand to the graveyard, and I can destroy one monster on on my opponent's side of the field with attack equal to or less than the monster that I discarded. So, and just like with Horus, once this card destroys a monster by battle at the end of the phase, I can send it to the graveyard to immediately bring out its evolved form and Armored Dragon level 7. It has 2800 attack, 1000 defense, and just like with Horus the Black Flame Dragon level 8, this card cannot be normal special summon. It can only be brought out with the effect of Armored Dragon level 5. Now, this card pretty much has the same effect as Armored Dragon level 5, but with the added effect that I can destroy all face-up monsters that my opponent controls with attack equal to or less than the discarded monster. Now, this card does not level up anymore by battle, but if I happen to have Armored Dragon level 10 in my hand and Armored Dragon level 7 on the field, I can send Armored Dragon level 7 to the graveyard to special summon Armored Dragon level 10. Now, as you can see, shit ton of stars, 3000 attack, 2000 defense, and it has the exact same effect as Armored Dragon level 7. So, to be honest, this card is a little bit of a letdown.
For a level 10, it needs way more attack, to be honest with you.
Yes, and the fact of the matter is that it has the exact same effect as its Armored Dragon level 7. To be honest, it was pretty much of a letdown, you know.
It's still useful to run, though, just for that extra 200 attack power.
Yeah, just for that little extra bit that you might need, you know. So that's the Armored Dragons. Now, the last LV that I run for this deck is an Ultimate Insect level 3. Now, I feel that I do need to say that there is an Ultimate Insect level 1, but for this deck, I decided not to run it. So...
Yeah, you just don't really need to be honest.
Yes. So, just like with the Armored Dragon, when you bring out Ultimate Insect, it must survive the entire turn in order for you to level it up. So, I run 2 copies of Ultimate Insect level 3, 1400 attack and 900 defense.
It's pretty ugly looking.
Yes, it is. But once it survived the turn and you send it to the graveyard, it allows you to bring out its next evolution, Ultimate Insect level 5. Now, you can tribute summon for this card, but it's highly recommended that you do not. And I'll tell you why in a minute. As you can see, he has 2300 attack, 900 defense. But if you do happen to bring him out with the effect of Ultimate Insect level 3, all face-up monsters that your opponent controls lose 500 attack points. So,
that's a really good effect.
Yes, it really is. And that's why you want to bring it out by leveling up. Because if you tribute something for this card, its second effect will not kick in. Your opponent monsters will not lose 500 attack power. Now, with if this card manages to survive a turn at the next standby phase, you can send it to the graveyard to bring out its final evolution, Ultimate Insect level 7, 2600 attack, 1200 defense. So not much of a spike in its attack power, but if you do bring it out using its effect of Ultimate Insect level 5, all face-up monsters that your opponent controls lose I believe 700 attack and defense points. So that's a pretty
gnarly effect.
Yes, it is. It's a pretty devastating effect on your opponent's monster cards. So I guess it balances it out for not having such great attack power with its effect.
Yeah, it'd be really good if it had higher attack power, and then this card would just destroy everybody.
So with that being said, those are the 3 LVs that I run in this deck. Now moving on to another monster that it's not all that strong, but it's pretty good to run in this deck. It is called Jinzo. It's 2400 attack, 1500 defense. And as many of you would probably know, its effect is that as long as it remains face up on the field, neither person can use trap cards. And the combo that I used to like to run in the day is by bringing out Horus the Black Flame Dragon and having Jinzo out on the field at the same time. Because with these two cards out on the field at the same time, I can negate the activation of spell cards and the activation of trap cards. So that's a pretty devastating combo in itself. Now, given that with Horus, I can still use spell cards, but my opponent cannot. And with Jinzo, neither of us can use trap cards. But I think that's a pretty good trade-off.
Yeah, you're pretty much gonna win the duel with that, to be honest.
As long as you can keep Jinzo alive, of course, because as I said, 2400 attack, not too devastating, but it's its effect that matters. Now, before I move on to the other cards that I run in this deck, I want to quickly go through the spell cards that support my LV monsters. I run 3 copies of Level Up. Now, simply put, I can target one LV monster that I control on the field and immediately send it to the graveyard and level it up.
That's a nice little spell card.
So, for example, I'm gonna go back to my favorite card right here. If I special summon, I normal summon a Horus the Black Flame Dragon. I use Level Up. I immediately send it to the graveyard, and I get to bring out its level 6 form, and say I have another LV on in my hand. I use it again, and then I send it to the graveyard to bring forth its level 8 form. Just a quick combo to throw out there. So that's why it's very useful to run 3 copies of this card in your deck. Next up, I run 2 copies of Level Modulator. Now this card can come back to bite you in the ass. What's the effect is that your opponent draws 2 cards, and then I get to special summon a level LV monster from my graveyard to the field, ignoring its summoning conditions, but its effects are negated for the turn. So, as I said, I have Armored Dragon level 10 in my graveyard. I use the spell card Level Modulator. My opponent will get to draw 2 cards, and I get to special summon Armored Dragon level 10, ignoring its summoning condition. But its effects will be negated. So this card can come in for the clutch if I have no other cards in my hand.
It's not a bad card. It's okay.
It's like I said, it's a bit of a gamble, but hey, it's worth it. And finally, I run 2 copies of the Graveyard in the 4th Dimension. What this card allows me to do is target up to 2 LV monsters in my graveyard and reshuffle them in my deck. So, quick example, say I have an Ultimate Insect in level 7 and an Ultimate Insect level 5 in my graveyard, and I happen to have an Ultimate Insect on the field. I can pop the graveyard in the 4th Dimension, put these 2 back in my deck, and then bring them out with the effect of LV3 Ultimate Insect.
That's a helpful card to just keep you in the game a little bit.
So that does it for my LV support. Now, for the other monsters that I run in this deck, I'll run 2 copies of Masked Dragon. It has 1400 attack, 1100 defense, fire attribute, level 3. And what makes this card worth having in your deck is that when this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, I get to special summon a dragon type monster with 1500 attack or less from my deck to the field. So the reason I run that card is because in my first turn, I summon Masked Dragon. I put him in defense mode. Then my opponent would summon a monster. He would destroy my Masked Dragon, send it to the graveyard. Then I would use his effect to bring out Armored Dragon level 3 onto the field. And since my opponent already conducted his battle phase and he would have no choice but to end his phase, I would go to my standby phase. And since my Armored Dragon survived the turn, I get to immediately level him up. So that's what makes Masked Dragon worth having in this deck. Next up, I run a copy of Luster Dragon and Alexander Dragon just for attack power purposes. For if nothing else for stalling.
And, not a bad card.
And lastly, just for the fuck of it, I run the Winged Dragon of Raw Spear mode. So just because, why not?
It's an interesting little card. I remember pulling that card. It was crazy.
Yeah. It's brought out by tributing 3 monsters from your opponent's side of the field, and then I think it is a turn or 2 later. This card will come back to my side of the field, and I get to special summon 1 Winged Dragon of Ra with 4000 attack and 4000 defense. So
It's not bad.
it's a pretty good way to screw over your opponent.
Yeah, it pisses me off when he uses it against me.
Okay. Now for other spell cards, I run a copy of Reikaki, different dimension capsule. I get to go through my deck and then remove from play one card that I choose, put it face down, and then 2 turns later, I get to add it to my hand. And one copy of Pot of Greed. For trap cards, I run a copy of Solemn Warning, Mirror Force, Grand Horn of Heaven, Sakuruto Armor, and Interdimensional Matter Transporter, and Call of the Haunted. All cards that are used to protect my LV monsters.
Yeah, those are all pretty textbook.
So, that does it for my LV deck. Personally, I would, because considering that all the time has passed, I would give it a level a rating of a 7, because some of the weaknesses for this card is obviously that
Low attack power.
low attack power, for one thing, and the fact that some of them need to survive the turn, and which in this day and age that's very hard to do. You know.
Yeah, this deck plays kind of slow compared to other decks, but I actually think it's a pretty good deck. I think it's a little overlooked. I think some of these combos are pretty nasty and really are good at shutting down your opponent.
Especially with Horus and Jinzo, with Ultimate Insect here, providing support with its effect. You know.
Yeah, I think this is a good deck. It's not too hard to make either, because if you see, compared to other deck profiles, there's not that many cards you need to get. This is like 40 flat.
Oh yes, pretty much 40 flat. You know.
You don't need to get too many cards for this. It's not a very expensive deck compared to other ones we've done on this channel.
Oh, definitely like my Blue Eyes deck.
Yeah, there's not much going on. There's a lot going on, but you don't need that much. You just need the 3 copies of each of these LVs, and then you're good.
So, that does it for this deck review. You want to add anything?
No, that's pretty much all I want to add. I think this is an interesting deck. I think this is going to be the one we're going to use for the duel, is it not?
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact,
Yes.
I'm glad you brought that up. Coming soon, when this LV deck of mine is gonna square off against
My Ghost Trick deck.
so that's something to look forward to. So until then, thank you for watching. Please like and comment if you, and we'll see you next time.